Welcome back to the Holiday Kitchen. Today we're gonna make a make-ahead gravy. So I don't know if you're like me, but gravy gives me deep anxiety. I think it's because it's rushed. You have to do it right at the time, right before you're serving. There's so many other things going on. It's like you get one chance. If you screw it up, there's no gravy, and I've screwed it up plenty of times. But I found this recipe for make-ahead gravy, which I think is amazing. You can do it 3 or 4 days in advance, put it in the fridge, and then the day of Thanksgiving or the day of your event, you can, if you're making a turkey, you can put the turkey drippings right into this. It'll warm it up. It'll give it that kind of day of flavor, whatever you're using to season your turkey with. So I found it really amazing. So we're gonna start with just a medium onion that we'll dice. And you want a pretty fine dice. If you imagine, right, it's gonna be the little particles in the gravy. You don't want a lumpy gravy. So we're gonna make much smaller little cuts of the onion. And then I'm gonna make actually 3 or maybe even 4 cuts coming up the top. All right, so I've got my pan here on medium. I'm gonna put a stick of Earth Balance in there. It's gonna go a long way, so don't worry. I'm gonna let that melt. And then I want about a half a cup of onion. So I may not use all of this onion, maybe just about half. So I'm gonna let the butter melt with the onion. And then what's most important is making a roux. So a roux is just a mixture of butter and flour generally. So the butter is melted and the onions are starting to cook down. You want those nice and softened. And then we're gonna add in our flour. I've got that Jules gluten-free flour. I also love Cup for Cup. Trader Joe's does a nice gluten-free flour, as well as the Namaste brand. All right, so I've got a half a cup of flour. And in making the roux, which is kind of intimidating, you just wanna add a little bit at a time and constantly stir. So roux are in all the bases of sauces, your bechamels, hollandaise, gumbo if you're from New Orleans. So wanting to make a roux, and you really want to get rid of that flour texture. So adding a little bit at a time, letting it cook and incorporate with the butter, and then adding a little more. It'll start to thicken up, and we're really looking for just a light tan color in the roux. And a little bit of that nutty smell or aroma coming through. All right, so all that flour's in there. I'm gonna go ahead and let this continue to cook for just a couple minutes, and I'm gonna constantly stir. So what you don't want is any of that kind of flour taste or texture, so you wanna give the roux a little bit of time to develop. So that's been cooking down for a few minutes, and you really don't wanna rush the roux. Don't rush the roux. But you really want to develop that nice flavor and not have any of that flour taste to it. So Thanksgiving time, you can use turkey stock, which is a great option, but often everybody says things like, that taste like chicken. Chicken and turkey are kind of similar. So I'm going to use just a chicken bone broth, about 4 or 5 cups. And it's the same as how we put the flour in. You really want to start a little bit at a time. So you're trying to develop just a nice thick gravy. So you want to continually whisk as you add your liquids in. It's going to give it that color and the depth, and then we'll let that kind of cook and warm up a little bit once all the liquid is incorporated. All right, so that has a really beautiful, thick, creamy consistency. The only little visible lumps there are from the onions that we diced up. So I'm going to season this just with some kosher salt and fresh cracked black pepper. All right, from here, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in a glass container. I can store it in the refrigerator for even up to a week in advance. And the day of on Thanksgiving, when I have my turkey, I'm gonna take all of the drippings, strain out all of the solids, and add the liquid to this already really amazing gravy base. This is good just as it is, so don't feel compelled that you need to do that day of. Sometimes it's just an added step to an already chaotic day. But this is beautiful and a really flavorful gravy for your Thanksgiving table.